Welcome to The Strategic Edge, the podcast for entrepreneurs and business owners who want a competitive edge in the market. They want to be seen as the expert in their industry, and they're looking for cutting edge and innovative strategies that work across industries to help them scale their business like a boss. My name is Carden, and I'm your host. Welcome to the show. Hey everyone, it's Carden here, your host, and I want to welcome you to another episode of The Strategic Edge. And today I have an incredible guest with me. He is doing some amazing things in the online space in the automobile industry, and I have been watching him through the years build his success, and I am so excited to have him on. I have Jay Grosman with me today from iAutoAgent, and Jay, welcome to my show.
I am so happy to be here, and thank you for having me, Ann.
Absolutely. We have so much to talk about and so much to share. But before we do that, I would love for you to just tell a little bit more about your company to our listeners, and then also kind of how you got into what it is you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the founder and CEO of iAutoAgent. I'm also an automotive advisor on Fox 2 News and Channel 4. I help people keep away from scams and make educated decisions when they're buying and selling cars. There's a lot of very rough types of we're in a rough world, and when you're in a type of a pandemic, the scammers they start showing up. And what I've done is I've spent almost 25 years in this business. I started the business in 2015. I was very, very successful in the dealership world. Mm-hmm. And I saw things changing. I saw the writing on the wall changing. And as a salesperson, I always felt like a doctor coming out of an unsuccessful surgery, having to tell people what their cars were worth. Mm-hmm. And I knew that the profit margins were there, that the dealers were making the profit margins, but then they started cutting back our pay. Mm-hmm. So then I had to figure out, okay, what can I do? Because I wanted to get out of the dealership world. Mm-hmm. I wanted to start something different, something for the consumer. There's never been anything really for the consumer. It's always one-sided. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to take my knowledge and create like this real estate agent for cars type of platform. Mm-hmm. And so it's really interesting. I mentored a gentleman for many, many years in the dealership world. And we decided in 2015, we were going to get out and we were going to start a business. I was going to leave a multi-six-figure income and just start a business. Mm-hmm. Because I believed in my mind that I could make a difference in the world as a thought leader in the automotive business and just share my knowledge and give the consumer something that they've always wanted. And that is convenience. That is number one. And they also don't want to leave money on the table when they're going to trade in their car. So I wanted to give them like, hey, let's give them convenience. Let's do that. So I thought it would be really easy, right? It's easy to start a business.
Like everyone thinks when they start a business, right?
Yeah. So we would meet at like Panera Bread Company at like 8 o'clock at night and like planning this business. And we were going to call it iAutoAgent. And we were going to just go in full force with this whole thing. And we met with this attorney. And the attorney's like, hey, I don't know if I can work with you because, there's a company called Enterprise out there. And I work for Enterprise. And I don't think that they're going to like that. But let me go ahead and find out. Well, days later, I come to find out I pretty much had to shut down my business. I mean, I had to take everything down. They gave me a cease and desist, websites, URLs, everything. But to make matters worse, I lose my business partner to a divorce. So January of 15, we're all going in strong. And he's like, hey, I got to leave. And as a business owner, I had a certain talent, and so did he. Mm-hmm. And we were polar opposites. So it was going to work perfectly until he left. So my whole world felt like it was falling apart.
Ouch.
Yeah. And so then I had to change my name March 3rd of 2015. Mm-hmm. Then in March 27th, so March 3rd of 15, I had to change my name. I changed it to iAutoAgent. which
Uh-huh.
stands for, the I stands for integrity,
Oh,
something
I
that
thought it stood for internet. So see,
it stands for integrity.
I
And
know.
it's something that, again, people want to experience in the automotive world, which they never have.
Mhm.
And so March 27th, dad passes away. My mom almost passed away 3 months after my dad. And my whole world was a mess. I would lay downstairs, literally, like looking up to the sky and wondering, what did I do? Why did I start this business? Why am I getting myself into this whole thing? I live in Chesterfield on a one income. I could buy anything I wanted. And I can't even sell one car with my great idea, right? Because we all know how ideas are, and then we know how execution is.
Right.
So what I did is I had two plans, plan A and plan B. Plan A was stick with iAutoAgent and make it work. And plan B was stick with iAutoAgent and make it work.
I love it. I love it. No, that's exactly what it takes too. You have to be all in.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I'm one of these people that I was always a leader in my industry, and anything that I did, I had drive, I had grit, I had grind. And this was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I would be breaking out in hives every single day, figuring out how am I going to pay my next bills. And so I would bring on agents, and the agents were terrible. They didn't want to work. It was terrible. And so it always came back to me. I was doing everything in the business. And then in 2016, it started looking up a little bit. I became an automotive advisor on Fox 2 News and really gained a lot of credibility. And that really put us on the map. But yet I would still be bringing people into this business, being a service business. And it was just like, this isn't working. And I have people trying to steal my business model. They're like, oh man, this is a great idea. I'm gonna go ahead and try to do this myself. Then we figured out NDAs and non-competes, figured that part out. And then 2017 rolled around, that's when I auditioned for Shark Tank. And that really, that was exciting. It was definitely exciting.
I want to bring up something here that you talked about too, because one of the things that I really I especially help like entrepreneurs and professionals do this more in their business, but really elevate their brand, get seen, which is one of the reasons I do this podcast, to help them really be seen and get more visible and build that credibility. And you talked about building that credibility, being in the news, being featured, even the I thought it actually stood for internet, and it stands for integrity. So bad me that I didn't realize that. But the thing is that really does speak volumes, and it did make a difference in your business. So I wanted to just point that out, because I think too many people don't do those things in their business, and they kind of stay the best kept secret.
Yeah, and you have to be your own advocate. You just gotta be not afraid to call.
Yes.
Like I put some stuff on Facebook because what I'm frustrated about in the media is the media only reports bad things.
Yes.
Right after they happen. And that's all we do is we sit there and I don't even watch the news anymore.
They never help anyone. They never do anything to help anyone. Right.
No. So then I put this, believe it or not, so I'm a pretty intense person, but I have a heart of gold. But what I did is I did something completely outside my comfort zone. I went on Facebook and I did this rant. Like one of my younger agents said, hey, have you ever tried a rant? And I'm like, what's that? It's when you speak your mind.
It got a lot of attention.
Oh, wow.
Yes. The feed blew up, right?
Right. Well, one of the reasons why I did is because something that's very near and dear to my heart is keeping people safe. And I don't know if you remember the young man that he met at a truck stop. He was an SIUE engineering student, got killed by meeting at a truck stop by simply trying to sell his car. And I was doing so I do speaking presentations all over St. Louis. And I literally was doing a speaking presentation the moment that young man was being murdered on that very topic to a group of business people. And I never watched the news, but my wife was watching the news when I walked in that door and I saw that story and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I've got to do something here. So when I went and did the rant, I'm like, the media never wants to report anything unless it's bad and it's already happened.
Mhm.
So I was getting really bad feedback from my people. They're like, man, you got to be careful what you're saying. But one person heard that rant and he was connected to Fox 2 News. He goes, you need to go on TV and you need to tell people your story on how you keep people safe when they're selling their car. And sure enough, I literally went on TV. I was told on Wednesday, can you be there on Friday? I went live, not paid, nothing, and literally had a commercial for iAutoAgent with John Pertzborn. And then I connected with Mike Colombo, and it was just like, it was amazing. And what that told me is that grit and grind and perseverance, you don't ever stop. And if you believe in something enough, it will happen. Yeah. And you have to believe that.
Oh my gosh, you are speaking word today for sure, because one of the things that I absolutely love, and I do this a lot because it's very frustrating in the business consulting coaching space. Everyone calls themselves a business coach, even if they've never owned a business, even if they've never done anything successful in business. They're out there trying to coach people because they buy into an organization or they buy a program or a course. It is the most frustrating thing ever. And it's so sad because it hurts the industry. It hurts the people who know what they're doing that really could make an impact in people's businesses or are helping. And so I rant about that a lot because when you have integrity and when you know your stuff and you have a heart to help people, nothing stabs you in the heart more than when people are dishonest and they don't have integrity and they show up and they just scam people, or they pretend to be something they're not. It is the most frustrating thing. So I love that you spoke about that because it's important. It's important that we show people the difference.
It is. And obviously my industry has one of the most tainted names there is. And what I wanted to do was become that trusted liaison between that buyer and seller, where everybody felt comfortable about the situation, because it's always one-sided. When you go to the dealer, you're always going to lose. You're always going to lose every single time. But if you had representation, if you had somebody, a company that would do what you need to do for them and make it the best of both worlds, it's really exciting. And as I started grinding and going through this, and this is great for business. When you contacted me and you wanted me to come on, I want to tell my story because there's so many people that want to start businesses, but they're afraid to take that leap. And to a certain extent, that's good. But if you put a plan and a strategy together where you do have money to fall back on, because nothing will work the way you think it will.
No, it all evolves for sure.
Right. So what I was doing is I was doing everything on my own, and I just wanted to bring somebody on that could manage a sales staff and that I could teach. And I brought this young guy on. He had never been in the business before. He was a real estate agent, and his name is Jordan. And Jordan, all he did for 2 months is sit there and listen to me. And he's like, I want to be the person that runs this company. And this was in 2018. And he wanted to be the one that would take on the agents. I'm like, if you're going to do that, you basically have to duplicate me, which will allow me to go out and build this company. So that's exactly what he has done. And so in 2018, he started. He's still with me. He manages my agents. He's amazing, and he runs my whole sell a car division, our real estate for cars division. And it's been amazing because I don't have to be involved with it anymore.
Yeah.
But you have to know as going into a business, you have to do everything yourself in the beginning. You have to learn every aspect of the business, then you teach it, and that's how it works.
And I really want to I want to talk more about this and elaborate on this, because one of the things, a couple of things that I see, especially with entrepreneurs, is they get into business and they want to just keep doing the thing. And so their business is never able to grow beyond them. And it's going to stop them every time. And so I love that you're talking about duplicating yourself. That's so, so important. Or you've got to find other ways that you can step into that CEO role, that you can continue to be the face driving your business, because like you said, no one's going to promote your business like you are, right? No, nobody is going to have that passion that you have, and that can't come out with anyone but you, I don't believe. When it's your baby, it has to grow up, right? Your baby has to grow up, but you have to be willing to step into a new role, and you have to be willing to let go of some control.
That is so well said. And I am a control freak, as most
Aren't we all? Yes.
owners are. But when you develop processes that work,
Yes.
and you document those processes, once the processes are documented, then they can become duplicatable.
That's gold, people. That's gold. Yes.
Yeah. And I learned so much, because I wasn't a business owner when I started. I was a car salesperson.
Right.
But when you have that vision, and I'm a visionary person, when you have that vision and you see that, it doesn't necessarily mean that the path to get to that vision is going to be exactly what you think, because it will not.
Right.
As long as you continue to have that vision and you believe in what you do, it's eventually you get other people to believe in your vision.
Yes.
And that's what I do, is when I bring people on, we have a great staff. You have to sell that vision and what you believe, and they have to believe it.
Yes.
You know? And so as we kept going, in 2019, I became an automotive advisor on Channel 4 News. And then in 2020, I was able to really start stepping back and letting Jordan handle the sales staff, handling everything. And I just oversee everything now. But it allows me to go out and do those speaking presentations. It allows me to refine our processes even more. Mm-hmm. Because we have some exciting things. We have a couple investors actually that have come on board in the last 90 days. We're opening our second location.
Fantastic. Gosh, you've really given so much value here, because these are all things that entrepreneurs go through, and they're all struggles that people go through in business. You talked about resilience. You talked about being a visionary. The one thing about that a lot of people don't understand is when you're a visionary, you don't need to be in the day-to-day operations, because that isn't technically your sweet spot, right?
Right.
Your sweet spot is the growth, is the expansion, is the exciting things that that you need to do as a leader. It's getting out there and like we talked about, being visible and all of those things. But I think a lot of people just don't realize that when they start a business. And a lot of people start a business and they're just more, especially entrepreneurs, they're more operational. And that makes it very difficult. Like I think about, I do a lot of work with contractors. And I think about contractors that, they're a good tradesman. They're good at their skill, right? They never want to step out of that role. And when they try to, they don't realize, hey, I need to learn about business, or maybe I need to work with someone who can teach me what I need to know about business. And so it keeps them stuck. And a lot of times they actually decline. And it's also why a lot of businesses fail.
Yeah. It's, I am a process freak. In fact, that's how our business works so well. It's our process. And it's being able to refine that process from the very start, when I first started, where I was putting people's cars in front of my house, to the point where we've figured out how to do this remotely now, where it's almost no overhead at all, because we don't have a built-in lot. Mm-hmm. And we can do this remotely. And we can hit all the points that the people are looking for, because the people will be the ones to tell you what they want. It's not about what you want. Mm-hmm. It's about what the people want. And when you provide, so we're in literally a convenience society right now. Everybody gets things delivered to them. and we kind of have our guards down. But what I'm seeing out there now is because of the pandemic, there are dealerships that look like they're dealerships online, and they're just completely scams. So I feel like that's my job to let people know, like, hey, you better put your guard up, because if you think that all these dealers are created equal, they're not, and you better be careful. And that's why I get a lot of TV time.
I love that. Oh, no, that's great. And like we talked about, I think it's important to point out the differences. And a lot of people don't do that. Like, they don't differentiate themselves. They don't show people why they're better or why they should be the go-to person. And so that's all part of positioning. And you have used that really well. I know I've known Jay, like, not personally, but we've been connected for a very long time. We're kind of in the same local area. And I was so fascinated when I saw come up on my Facebook feed that Jay was going to be on Shark Tank. I was just so blown away by that. And so I want to talk about that a little bit. It hasn't gone, and you just said you auditioned for the second time, and it hasn't gone quite the way you want, but there are some really positive things that I want to talk about with that. But just tell everyone a little bit about that experience, Jay.
Sure. So I had auditioned, like I said, in 2017 for Shark Tank. We didn't get on because bottom line, Shark Tank does not like service businesses. So if you have a service business, I'm not saying don't try to audition, but I applied to audition. They accepted me. It was the most amazing audition ever. And I really thought I was going to get on. And when the Allman report was on, they had me on TV and whatever. But then 2020 came around, and I was actually contacted to audition for Shark Tank by a casting director. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll give it a shot. So she says, I do a phone interview, and then we go to the second round. Well, she did the phone interview, and she goes, man, you sound like exactly what we're looking for. We're gonna go to the second round. And I'm like, excited, of course.
Right.
So it was like a 35-page document that I had to fill out. I mean, they want to know everything about you. I mean, everything. And then you have to do an audition tape, and then they may or may not let you know, which really they're not going to let you know. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much, if you don't get the call back, you don't get the call back. So it took me like 7 hours to fill out that document. And I was it's just mind numbing stuff. And so, so then basically I had a good enough relationship with the casting director, and I was like, hey, listen, I haven't heard from them. Are we, because before I start because when they have you come on, I mean, it's pretty quick after you audition. I mean, the TV shoot is. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, hey, should I be scheduling stuff, or am I going to come on? Am I going to be on or not? And they're just like, well, no, they didn't move forward with you. I'm like, no problem. I will never audition again, because it is very apparent. I watch Shark Tank all the time. They want products, and they want food.
Yeah.
And they want apps, because here's why. Service businesses grow very, very slowly, if grow at all. Mm-hmm. And products can go viral overnight, and they want something that's already successful out there.
Right.
They want something that someone's already buying your product, because they want the easy way. They have all these businesses.
Well, I was going to say, it's a lot easier to help people improve things than it is to start from nothing, which is why they won't invest most of the time in people that are doing nothing, but just have something, to start with. But
exactly. And it was a interesting experience, to say the least. It got me a lot of recognition, credibility. It's all good. It's all good PR.
It is. It is. And I think that's the big takeaway. 2 takeaways here I want to say about that. Number one, you went for it, Jay. How many people don't go for stuff? How many people stop? Just the what you're saying about filling all the stuff out that took you 7 hours, that would have stopped people right there in their tracks, and they would have never done it. They would have been like, this is too much work. And all those things that we've been talking about, resilience and just going for it and getting featured and, not letting anything stop you. That's what makes people successful. It's not the giving up because it's 7 hours to fill something out.
Yeah, it isn't. And I wanted to give it another shot. And Shark Tank, again, their products, their food, it's all, remember, this is on TV.
Right.
So it's about,
that's interesting. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and taste this. And we're all like sitting on their heads. What are they gonna think? Is it gonna taste good, or are they gonna like it?
Right.
And that's what people are looking for. But at the end of the day, what I'm so proud of my model is I have a successful model that is marketable and people love. And that's all that's important. I see businesses all the time that they get all this money and investment and they have this idea, but it's about the execution. And that's what I'm proud of, is we've executed. And execution doesn't take a day. It doesn't take a week. It doesn't take a month. It takes years.
Yes.
And it's continuous. All the time we're executing.
Yes. And you have to, and we were talking a little bit before we started recording about the pandemic and having to pivot and, the businesses that are going to fail through this. And we talked about all of those things before. And so one of the things that you even talked about is, you had to do some pivoting during the pandemic. And we talked about, having a loan and having some backup money. And a lot of those things are just things I don't think most people in business prepare for. Especially we've come off of a very strong economy. And I think a lot of businesses that have not, I've been around for 29 years building businesses. So I've been through recessions and Y2K and 9/11 and all of those things that, the 2008 recession went on 4 years. And I expanded my businesses during that time when a lot of them around me were shutting down. And so it's really important that you don't get stopped in your tracks, but you look for ways to be resilient and to, to do what you need to do to support your business, but to just keep moving forward.
Yeah. And it's and we've talked about resilience and grit and grind and persistence. It's just like anything. We're in a race, but we're not in a sprint. We're in a marathon. And if you're running a marathon and there's a wall, are you just going to stop? Or are you going to figure out how to get around the wall?
Right.
You've got to just figure it out. And when the pandemic hit and they told people, hey, you can't leave your house, you can't go anywhere. What do you think I was thinking in my head? I'm like,
nobody's going to need a car.
Right. And then the question is how many months are they going to have people doing this? And how many months can we sustain without making any money? And so at that point, it comes to the fact that you have to strategize. You have to look at, okay, what's my product? What do I do? And what can I do maybe a little bit differently to pivot to make it so I can get through this? I can make this work, because there's no such thing as can't. There's just no such thing.
Love it.
There's only I can.
That's right.
And I will, and I must.
That's right. The only way to fail is to quit, right?
When you can look up, you can get up. And Les Brown is one of my favorite mentors. He actually got me through this, I'm going to call it this jungle of a business adventure. Because when I would get down, I would turn on Les Brown and Tony Robbins and Will Smith and Eric Thomas and all those guys, Gary Vaynerchuk, all those guys. It's all right here in your head.
Yes.
And it's whatever you believe. Is that's what it comes down to. Because if you believe you're going to fail, you're probably right.
Yeah. Find a way or make a way.
Yeah. I mean, if you could see my screen right now, on the bottom of my screen, I have all these positive motivational sayings, and I would write them down and I put them on sticky notes, because the moment that I start going down the wrong path in my mind, that's when I start reading these things. And it's like, I know why I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. And you actually, you're kind of talking about something that I think entrepreneurs, I just had this conversation with someone else on my podcast the other day. So not to repeat what we talked about, but entrepreneurs tend to have a little bit more of a growth mindset than like a small business owner who is kind of stuck in their business. They have a location and they have employees and they're kind of stuck in. I think entrepreneurs, because especially, you're on the internet, right? And so you have a lot more exposure, I think, to those things. But to your point, it's so important that you keep your mind strong and positive. And, I just talked about this the other day. Cut off the news. You don't need it. You're going to get up tomorrow morning and you can only control what you can control. So to get sucked into all of that negativity and all the things that are going on around is just never going to benefit you. It just never is. So I love that you I love that you spoke about that. The positivity.
Yeah. And I always have been positive, and it's hard. Like when you have enough of a why behind you, because not only do I have a family to support, but I have my iAutoAgent family. Those people are counting on me, and they count on me to be on my game every single day. And sometimes I'm not, but you have to get to the point where when you're not, you got to bring yourself to be on your game, because you're not going to be great every single day.
Right.
But when you average everything out, as long as you stay as even keel as possible, because you're going to have your really highs, but you're going to have your really lows. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you something, and this is something that a lot of your entrepreneurs that are listening to this can relate to. At one point, my bank account got down to $196 for this company back in 2015. And I had a con artist literally working for me. And one of the gals that takes care of a lot of the title work, she came to me and she goes, "We have a con artist. He's conning you. You need to get rid of him." And that was really, really tough for me to do that. But she was right. He was sucking me dry. And when I saw my bank account get down to $196, and this guy, I was paying him a draw, but he wasn't doing anything to pay back his draw. Mm-hmm. It was I can't even put into words.
Oh gosh, the experiences that we go through as business owners.
I said to myself, I will never, ever let that happen again. I will never let my bank account ever happen again. And I mean, we have been just rocking and rolling, since.
Oh gosh, I have to really interject here because I can't tell you the clients that I've worked with, and I'm thinking of one in particular. When I went in to work with him, looking at their financials and obviously helping them be more profitable, and all of that is part of what I help people do in their business. And things weren't adding up. And I as I'm digging in and we're really trying to figure out what we're going to do in his business, I said to him, things aren't adding up here. You're doing all of this work. You've got all of these jobs going on, and yet you are strapped and you don't have money. And it just wasn't from the financials. And I said, who else has access to your bank account, to your credit cards, to your, and his right-hand guy did. He goes, well, he does. I said, he's ripping you off. I can tell you he is ripping you off. This isn't my first rodeo. I've been around for a lot of years. He's stealing from you. Oh, no. He's not stealing from me. Well, I can remember, so we were working together a couple of months, and things still weren't adding up. And I remember saying to him, I know something is going on here. Well, I remember calling his office one day when he didn't show up to a call, and his secretary said, he's in there with the police. He found out so-and-so, somehow it came to light to him, and he knew the guy had ripped him off for over $30,000 that he knew of. And because before I started working with him, he hadn't kept good records. He really hadn't kept up his financials the way he needed to. He didn't even really know how much the guy stole from him because the guy had been with him for 3 years. So here's a big, big takeaway for people. Don't let anyone have access to your bank account, not your CPA. They can have access to see they should not have access to be able to take money from it, things like that. So you kind of brought up that point, and this is something that hasn't really come up on a podcast, but it's important to watch out for things like that in business.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm one of those people that I like everybody. I just do. And I don't like controversy. Like, so I'll avoid it if I can. But as a business owner, there are some things that you just have to address, and they're important. And I had somebody that was in my company, and I hired business consultants way back in 2015. They gave me some very, very bad advice. They told me that I should give equity in my company to this admin assistant. That's what she was, because I wasn't able to pay her enough. And the moment that I gave that equity is the moment that everything hit the fan. She became somebody that, I'm Jay's partner, I do this, I do that. And what I came to find out, nobody liked her. Nobody. Not just the people in the company, but other people that we would work with. And she would come outside of her lane all the time. And I felt like, oh my gosh, what did I do? So then I had to buy her out for a lot of money so I could get her out of there. Because she had access to everything.
Oh, ow.
And then telling people that I'm Jay's partner, and she just wasn't, I'm going to use the word professional. And that's not the image that I portray. And people would say to me all the time, that's not who you are, Jay. This person does not represent your company and what your company stands for. Oh my gosh.
You are bringing up such a great point. First of all, we're really uncovering a lot of pain and pitfalls and mistakes. People making business. Hey, I've made them. I've been ripped off by employees. I've had bad situations where I've had to let people go. I've hired the wrong people that didn't align in my business. Those are all things, though, that people should be aware of as they're growing their company. Get really, really clear on who those ideal people are. And they're not only do they need to have the characteristics that you're looking for, they need to have the values, and they need to care about the same things as you. And so, yeah, those are all, I'm sorry that you went through all those things, and even the bad advice you got. I'm really sorry about that.
One of the things, and to touch on your point, Ian, when you talk about values, I'm also part of the entrepreneurs organization. It's called EO. It's the most amazing organization. It's been a life changer for me. But one of the things that they really stress is about core values. You have to define your core values, and everything in your business has to be aligned with your core values. And if somebody does not align with your core values, they are not a good fit for your business. And that's how we do it. We have 5 core values. We share that with everybody that comes on board. This is what we are. This is who we are. And then we talk about those core values in our meetings too. So if somebody demonstrates a core value, we make it so everybody in our meeting knows what that person did, and give them a nice pat on the back and saying, hey, you demonstrated teamwork, which was one of our core values. You stepped up to the plate when we really needed your help. It was on your day off, and you did what you needed to do. We bend over backwards for people at iAutoAgent.
Yeah. And I think, to your point too, it's really easy sometimes for us to keep a person too long. Everyone's going to make hiring mistakes, but to your point, when you really do sit down and define what you want to stand for, it will make it really easy to see if someone is going to be a good fit for your company or not. It makes too many businesses don't do that. It makes the hiring process so much better.
Yeah. And let's face it, in a service business, the number one problem or challenge, however we want to look at it, is people. It's always people.
Yes.
You need the people to do your business. And people have
Oh, and
emotions.
owners. I have to throw owners in there. They can also be a problem.
Oh, majorly. And so that's the number one challenge is finding the people that are dedicated, that represent your company in a professional manner with, all the professionalism you can ever imagine. And that's the best way I can put it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. We have uncovered a lot of good stuff here today. I know that, I think it's important when you watch people doing trainings and things like that, and I do a lot of education, you share a lot of the positive things and what people should be doing, but you don't always talk about, the dirt and the stuff underneath, like the iceberg, right? You've got the tip and what's underneath, and you don't talk about, a lot of people don't like to talk about those things. But to me, those are the things that are the most powerful and the most helpful to help people avoid those pitfalls and those mistakes in business. So, oh my gosh, Jay, this has been phenomenal. Anything else you want to share with my listeners before we wrap this up?
Obviously, we want to help everybody. If you ever want to sell your car and you don't want to go to the dealership and you just want it all done for you, we basically handle every aspect of the sale. We handle all the marketing of the vehicle to 500 plus websites. We send a concierge to your house to pick up the car to do the showing. We even handle the money transaction, and the seller never pays us a dime. We build our compensation into the price of the vehicle. It doesn't cost the seller a penny to do business with us. And the buyer can actually buy it for less. And the way that we can do that is almost no overhead. We don't have a building, a lot, anything. We come to you for everything, and it's a hands-off process. So
I love that.
Yeah.
And you kind of bring up a point. I want to ask you about something. So it's always been this thing, do dealers make a lot of money? Do they not make a lot of money? Of course they have this, humongous overhead, right? But how are the profit margins? I know from your standpoint, what you're doing is great because like you said, you don't have all the overhead, but what are the profit margins kind of for dealerships?
The dealers probably will not agree with me, but again, knowing my background of almost 25 years, dealers are going to make on an average of about $5,000 to $6,000 on a used car. And they will never admit it, but they have to. And here's why. When you walk into a dealership, what do you see? Marble floors, Starbucks coffee, cafes.
That's what I said, lots of overhead. Yeah.
You're paying for that. But when you get into really, really expensive cars, because we sell anywhere from a $5,000 car to over a $100,000 car. When you get into really expensive cars, you're talking $10,000, $12,000, $13,000 worth of margin. So when these people are coming to us, number one, we're giving them the best of both worlds. We're like, hey, you don't have to lift a finger, and we're going to give you more money. And then you're never going to pay us a dime, and we're going to handle all the costs along the way. So why wouldn't anybody do that? It's just, again, brand awareness. But when it comes to margins, that's about what a dealer is going to make. Now, on some cars, like some of the Toyotas and Hondas, the margins are very thin and like $2,500, $3,000 margins. But when you get into trucks and SUVs and sports cars, oh yeah, field day.
Interesting. No, that's great information. My husband and I kind of have this debate all the time too. He's like, well, how can you go to one dealer? And now this is more if you're buying something new, but how can you go to one dealer and they can give it to you at this price? And you go to another dealer for the very same car. And, and that dealer will say, no, we can't go any lower, but the other dealer can. He's like, oh, how can that happen?
I can actually tell you how that happens. So that's on a new vehicle. Here's how dealers make money. Dealers don't necessarily make money on the front end of the deal, is what I call it. The front end of the deal is where the margin is, where they use the terminology invoice. That's not typically where dealers are going to make their money. The dealers are going to make their money on, there are incentives through the manufacturers that the consumer will never see, that is given to that dealer based on the production and their customer service rating. So if you get to a dealer, because we actually help people buy cars also. So we help people buy cars nationwide, new and used. When you get to a dealer and the dealer says, okay, well, I'll do this, but the other one won't. One of the reasons why they may not is because they could be very close to hitting a bonus with their manufacturer. And when they hit that bonus, you're talking thousands upon thousands and thousands of dollars that they will get. So what they do is they take some of that money, they put it toward the consumer, because that next car gets them one closer to the bonus. So when I do my buyer's agent, so when I help people buy vehicles, I actually deal with the people that run the dealer, not the salespeople. The salespeople eventually get credit, but the dealers love us because all I'm doing is I'm handing them a client, but I get down to the bottom of things really, really quickly. And I find out all those incentives that it's going to take you 4 to 7 hours, maybe days to figure out. And I do it all remotely and get the whole deal set up before you even walk in the dealer. And if you approve the deal, we get paid a fee upon a successful sale. And so, like, you know, not to be like advertising, whatever, but if your viewers or, you know, listeners come to me, I will give them a $300 discount off of what we normally charge, which was $995, and we would charge $695 if they decided to do the buyer's agent. But the seller side doesn't cost them anything.
Oh my gosh, that's great information. No, very, very
stuff you always wanted to know, right?
It really was. Now that was more on a personal note. But hey, while I had you on here, why not, right? But
I'll answer anything. You can ask me anything. I'm an open book.
Other people are out there, you know, buying cars and right.
Yeah.
So, no, good information. Oh my goodness, this has been so much fun. I wish we had longer to go. This has been just great. So Jay, how can people get a hold of you?
So if you're looking to sell your car, you just go to I like integrity, AutoAgent, AutoAgent.
You can see it right behind me.
Yeah, I'm right behind me there. Or you can call us at 636-614-3711.
Okay, awesome. And we'll put all of his information with the show notes, so you'll be able to reach out to him too. But Jay, thank you for, number one, being an open book, sharing with other business owners and entrepreneurs, the good, the bad, the ugly, I should say, really, the thing that we all experience. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, and I really enjoyed it.
You're welcome. Thanks so much. Until next time, everyone, you have an amazing day and go rock your business, and God bless you. Bye-bye.